What's the fastest someone made you realize, nah, we're never gonna be friends? Story 1. I was at this dude's house, just casually hanging out. Normal afternoon, absolutely zero signs that I was about to become a headline on the local news. This man goes into his closet, pulls out a handgun, and points it directly at me, smiling like he's the funniest guy alive, like full, haha, bro, relax energy. And immediately my brain did that thing where time slows down and you start noticing weird details. The dust on the ceiling fan, the sound of the fridge humming, the fact I was about to die in a bedroom with anime posters on the wall. Just humiliating stuff. And I'm sitting there frozen because what is the correct response? If I laugh, I'm encouraging serial killer behavior. If I panic, now we got nervous guy with gun energy involved, which is somehow worse. Then this absolute genius checks the gun afterward and goes, "Oh shit, it was loaded." Was loaded? Brother, it still is loaded. That sentence does not make me feel better. Yeah, no. Friendship ended instantly, permanently. Because if your sense of humor includes accidental manslaughter roulette, I actually don't need to see your character development arc play out. Story 2. This dude was my best friend from like 6th grade through our first year of college. Basically my brother. Same inside jokes, same friend group, all that, and he'd been dating the same girl since high school. And honestly, I thought she was my friend too. One night he's at work, and me and her are just hanging out at the apartment like normal. Then out of nowhere, she lifts her shirt and her stomach is covered in bruises. He beats me. I swear my entire body went hot. I punched the refrigerator so hard, I dented it because my brain genuinely could not process what I was hearing. And then somehow, it got worse. She said she thought I already knew, and that I'd hurt her too if she told anybody, because I was his friend. That part still messes me up. I called one of my boys back home, and this absolute legend drove 4 hours overnight. Next morning, I kept my friend distracted while they packed her stuff and got her out. Felt like we were running a prison escape operation, honestly. She hid at a neighboring apartment, and I drove her straight to her mom's place. And later, after she'd been away from him for months, she got excited because she got her period again. Turns out this psycho had been controlling her food so badly he messed up her hormones. Haven't spoken to him in 17 years. Saw her recently at a grocery store though. Married now, kid, happy, healthy. Weirdly enough, that was probably the moment I realized somebody can become a complete stranger in a single sentence. Story 3. When I was younger, me and a friend got into a horrific car accident. Like genuinely life-altering. I was in a coma for over 3 weeks, broke a pile of bones, had to relearn how to talk, the whole nightmare package. My parents basically lived at the hospital wondering if I was even gonna wake up. And the girl who was driving showed up at the hospital wanting to see me. My parents were furious and wouldn't let her in, which honestly feels like an extremely reasonable reaction when your child currently resembles a medical documentary. So this girl responds by telling my parents I hated them and that she hoped I died so they'd never see me again. Already psychotic behavior, but somehow she still had one final DLC expansion of insanity left. After I got home, still in a wheelchair, jaw wired shut, barely able to speak, she comes over to visit, and the first thing out of her mouth is, "I got the worst bruise on my knee. I could barely walk for a week. You got to sleep and miss school." I swear my soul rebooted from pure rage. "Ma'am, I was in a coma. You are comparing a knee bruise to me temporarily visiting the shadow realm." And somehow, through the pain, meds, broken bones, and my jaw basically held together with industrial zip ties, I managed to scream, "Get out!" Never spoke to her again. Honestly, one of the easiest decisions I've ever made. Story 4. I was out walking with this woman from my neighborhood. Just casual getting to know you conversation. Normal stuff, weather, neighborhood gossip, dogs named Kevin, whatever. Then she starts talking about how she and her husband are trying to adopt a baby, and I'm like, "Oh, wow. I've heard that process can be really hard." And she goes, completely casually, "Yeah. We actually had a little girl for over 2 years before, but we found out the hospital vaccinated her when she was born, so we gave her back." Excuse me? My brain literally stalled out like an old laptop trying to process too many tabs. Because, hold on, you had a child for 2 years. Bedtime stories, scraped knees, tiny shoes by the door, probably called you mom, and you returned her over vaccines like she was a toaster with a manufacturing defect? And the scariest part was how calm she was saying it. No emotion, no hesitation, just casually dropping life-altering emotional devastation into sidewalk small talk like, "Oh yeah, Trader Joe's was out of oat milk too." At that point, I wasn't even thinking about the anti-vax thing anymore. I was stuck on the fact that somebody could build an entire parent-child bond and then walk away from it that easily. Absolute emotional black hole behavior. I finished the walk being polite, but internally I was like, yeah, there is not a single universe where we become friends. Story 5. Our company got acquired, and everybody was already stressed because new management always feels like getting assigned random step-parents as an adult. Suddenly, there's new rules, new org charts, some guy named Vince asking about synergy while ruining everyone's Tuesday. Then I met my new boss. This dude looked exactly like an extra from a mob movie. Slick back hair, heavy gold watch, permanent expression like he'd threatened a contractor within the last 48 hours. But at first, I'm thinking, all right, maybe he's just intense. Then during a casual office conversation, he drops this little gem about how men should slap their wives around occasionally to keep them in line. And the room went dead silent. You ever hear something so insane your brain briefly leaves your body to go stare out a window? Because mine did. I was standing there pretending to sip coffee while internally going, oh, so we're just openly doing domestic violence takes before lunch now. Cool, cool, cool. And the worst part was how casually he said it too, like he was discussing lawn maintenance. No hesitation. No, I know this sounds bad. Just fully confident, uncle at Thanksgiving energy from hell. Story 6. Met up with some friends in this bar district, and they brought along this dude from uni I'd never met before. At first, he seemed normal, which honestly should have worried me more, because the truly unhinged ones always load in looking completely regular. We shake hands. Quick small talk, whatever. Then we pass this girl on the sidewalk, and he says something to her, probably trying to flirt, except with the confidence of a man who thinks rejection is legally prohibited. She ignores him and keeps walking, and this dude immediately snaps, like instantly starts screaming insults at her in the street, calling her every disgusting name he could think of because she didn't respond to a random guy while minding her business. Whole mood changed in 2 seconds flat. You could practically hear every woman within 50 feet mentally activating pepper spray. That's the kind of reaction where your brain goes, oh, okay, so this isn't a bad night thing. This is a personality defect. I turned to my friends and was like, yeah, nah, I'm out if this guy's staying. Because if this is how he reacts to being ignored by a stranger, imagine him when something actually goes wrong. Like the bartender forgets his ranch dressing or some shit, went home, got an apology text later, never saw him again. Which honestly felt like the universe correcting itself a little. Story 7. I was kinda sorta seeing this girl in college, and at first she seemed cool. Bit dramatic maybe, but college is basically just a giant building full of sleep deprivation and unresolved personality disorders. So, whatever. She hated her roommate though. Constant complaints. Apparently the roommate's boyfriend was always over, which honestly, fair. Nobody wants to hear strangers flirting 3 feet away while you're trying to eat microwaved ramen in peace. But then one day she casually goes, yeah, when she leaves for the weekend, I clean the toilet with her toothbrush. Just drops that sentence into the conversation like she's talking about doing laundry. And I remember my entire body going cold because what do you even say to that? That's not petty anymore. That's the origin story of somebody who ends up on a true crime podcast, narrated by Keith Morrison. I literally pictured myself 6 months into dating her, accidentally eating the last yogurt in the fridge and waking up to find my contact lenses soaking in bleach. So while she's laughing, I'm internally conducting a full emergency evacuation procedure. Grabbed my toothbrush immediately too. Like, suddenly every item I owned felt contaminated. Laptop? Probably cursed. Hoodie? Poisoned somehow. I started distancing myself from her so fast I basically entered witness protection. Story 8. A buddy introduced me to one of his friends, and we all went bar hopping together. Honestly, the night seemed completely normal. Good conversation, drinks, everybody laughing, no weird tension. We're all in our mid-30s too, so I figured we were safely past the random parking lot fist fight chapter of male development. Apparently not. At one point, the guy was stressing over paying his part of the tab. Economy was wrecked back then. He'd been out of work a while, fighting with his wife over money. Whole situation sounded rough, so I just said, I got you, buddy. Don't worry about it. Tossed his card back across the table and paid for everybody. End of interaction. Or so I thought. Turns out, This man spent the entire 10-minute drive home silently marinating in wounded masculinity like a rotisserie chicken of rage. We pull up to his house, everybody gets out, and out of nowhere, he sucker punches me directly in the head. Full cheap shot. I ended up with a concussion standing in some suburban driveway wondering if I'd accidentally teleported into a deleted Sopranos scene. And the craziest part? His explanation was basically that me paying the tab embarrassed him. Like, brother, I bought you mozzarella sticks. I didn't challenge you to a duel at sunrise. My friend actually tried defending him too, which somehow made it worse. Ended up cutting both of them off entirely. Because once a grown man decides kindness is disrespect, there's really nowhere healthy left for that friendship to go. Story 9. I was talking to this girl, and the conversation somehow drifted toward homelessness and social programs, normal, lighthearted first date material apparently, and out of nowhere she launches into this absolutely deranged rant. Starts saying homeless people don't even want to live, that they'd all be better off dead, and that funding mental health care, housing programs, or income support was a waste of money. And I'm sitting there like, hold on. Did you just speedrun into cartoon villain ideology over appetizers? Because there's having opinions about policy, and then there's sounding like you got rejected from an evil billionaire think tank for being too intense. The scariest part was how casual she was about it too. No hesitation, no awareness that she was saying something deeply horrifying. Just confidently talking about struggling human beings like they were expired produce at a grocery store. I remember trying to push back a couple times, thinking maybe she phrased it badly. Nope, every clarification somehow made it worse, which is honestly impressive in a terrible way. At that point, my brain fully switched from, could we be friends, to, I should probably never let this person know where I live. Ghosted her afterward without a shred of guilt, because if somebody can casually dehumanize vulnerable people that easily, eventually that lack of empathy is coming for everybody around them too. Story 10. I met this girl off one of those friendship apps, which already feels like emotional Craigslist, if we're being honest, but I figured, alright, maybe I'll meet somebody normal for once. Huge mistake. Monumental. Historic, honestly. Within like 2 minutes of sitting down, she launches into this non-stop TED Talk about her fiancé's money. Not even subtle either, just rapid-fire flexing. Our cars are so nice. We've saved so much money. I just bought this cheap purse for 600 pounds. Cheap. $600. Ma'am. My definition of a cheap bag is came free with sunglasses at the mall. Meanwhile, she asked me absolutely nothing about myself. Not one question. I could have been an escaped fugitive or a substitute math teacher and she wouldn't have known. She was basically on a first date with her own bank account. But the final boss moment, she starts showing me videos of her spraying her indoor cats with a hose, because she thought their reactions were so funny. These poor cats are hissing, panicking, scrambling around like tiny furry hostages, and she's laughing. And that was it. Friendship over, immediately. Because being annoying is one thing. Being cruel to animals for entertainment? Nah. You could have 10 Lamborghinis and a purse made from moon rocks. I'm still crossing the street to avoid you.